We mourn his death, then we mourn his mythology. Over the past year, the internet repeatedly rose to defend宗庆后, the austere national entrepreneur who wore cloth shoes and drank his own products. Then, in the span of a single week, it erupted with revelations. Several hidden love children, contested inheritance, foreign green cards, backstage manipulation, and decades of myth-making. The man who once stood for thrift and patriotism now stands at the center of a slow-motion collapse of a carefully curated illusion. Even more dramatic was the social media campaign that briefly followed Zhong's passing on February 25, 2024. A movement to boycott Nongfu Spring, led by nationalistic netizens who claimed that Zhong was the true patriotic entrepreneur, while Zhong Shanshan, whose son reportedly holds U.S. citizenship and whose products bear Japanese design elements, was denounced as a tool of foreign influence. Suddenly, bottled water became a battlefield, and the myth of one man was used to target another. Yet the more fascinating revelation is not about Zhong, but about us. Why did so many people so quickly project virtue onto a businessman whose real story was always opaque? Why cloth shoes taken as a sign of moral superiority? And why, when the fantasy began to crack, did the media pivot not to deeper journalism but to juicier gossip and judgment? Because what Zhong offered beyond beverages or corporate slogans was religion. In the elementary forms of the religious life, Emil Durkheim argued that religion is not fundamentally about gods, but about society's need to imagine itself. Religious symbols, sacred trees, totems, rituals, are projections of collective values. When a tribe bows before God, it bows before its own image, sanctified. God is society made divine. And when modernity sweeps away temples and dogmas, as it did during China's anti-superstition campaigns, the Cultural Revolution, and decades of state-promoted atheism, the instinct remains. The rituals change, the idols mutate, but the hunger for collective meaning, for shared purity, does not fade. As Durkheim warned, societies that strip away religion do not become rational. They become vulnerable to new forms of sacredness. Nationalism, consumerism, and the cult of personality are all attempts to sacralize the social again.宗庆后was not just a businessman, he was a CEO totem. He stood for thrift, for Chinese entrepreneurship, for defiance of the foreign. Or so we were told. The cloth shoes were not footwear, they were relics. The second-class train ticket was not logistics, it was liturgy. The refusal to leave money abroad was not a tax strategy, it was a sermon. It didn't matter that his company operated like many others, or that his personal life contradicted his public image. What mattered was the narrative, the need to believe. We killed the gods, as Nietzsche said, but forgot to dig the grave. And in the emptiness, we consecrated other idols, the nation, the market, the self, or the myth of incorruptible CEO. But every idol, if not rooted in truth, eventually becomes brittle. Every cult of personality collapses under the weight of reality. When Zhong died, what unraveled was not just a man's legacy, but an entire system of symbolic projections, media complexity, public naivete, and the craving for moral fables in the moral fog. What followed was almost ritualistic. First, the sanctification, then the sacrificial turn. When the daughter took over, the narrative flipped again. The true heir emerged, not just to run the company, but to carry the myth forward. The long-form interviews, the polished media appearances, the fearful vows to make Chinese food great again, all part of the rite of succession. We've seen this before, from the mythologizing of political leaders to to the idealization of entrepreneurs. The machinery is always the same. Find a figure, project virtue, ignore contradiction, then consume the fall as entertainment. Repeat. Durkheim teaches us that this is not accidental. When societies feel anxious, economically, morally, spiritually, they ritualize, they myth-make, they create sacred boundaries between the pure and the impure. And when those boundaries blur, panic ensues. Zhong was pure until he wasn't. His image was clean until it was contested. His authority was sacralized until it became suspect. So the same media that once danced to his tomb now dissects his life. The same public that rallied behind him now shares tablet posts. And the cycle begins anew. Not because people are foolish, but because they are human, meaning-starved, and desperate to believe in something, someone, anything. But this cycle has a cost. Every time we crown a new idol, we delay the hard work of building shared truth. Every time we mistake performance for virtue, we weaken our moral immune system. Every time we consume collapse as spectacle, we cheapen our ability to care.宗庆后may have lied or simply lived a complicated life. But the more sobering question is, what did we need from him that made us believe so quickly and turn so sharply? If we don't answer that, we will be forever lighting candles in new cathedrals, forgetting that we built them ourselves. The soul craves meaning, and if we don't reclaim it, carefully, critically, consciously, it will be sold back to us, wrapped in branding and delivered by those who know how to manufacture gods. Not every fall from grace is betrayal. Sometimes it is revelation. And in that moment, we must decide, build another idol, or finally, bury the last god we made.